Hey, gang, what's going on? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Willkommen. Bienvenue. How are you? I'm Alan. Thanks for being here. If you are, happy to have you. Say hi to Bam Bam Bill Squire. He's right over there.
Hey, creepy hugs, everyone. Thanks for listening to and watching this episode of the Alan Cox Show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. A cold one with the boys.
Mary Lynn Santora is here, too.
What up?
And Poundcake is back in Studio G.
Good afternoon, white people. Hello.
Because he's a real one.
The realist.
On a cold, sunny Tuesday, February 2, Groundhog Day.
Oh, I forgot.
Is it Groundhog's Day or Groundhog Day?
Groundhog Days.
Is it, you know how people get upset if you say
day of Groundhog now.
the day of Groundhog? Dia de los Groundhog? You know, some people get pissed when you say daylight savings time.
I say that.
Some people get really, really nerdy about it, and they say, it's daylight saving time. You know, I'm a word nerd, but even I don't get that nerdy about it. But I wondered if it was Groundhog's Day or Groundhog Day. Because I know everybody focuses on Punxsutawney Phil, so it could easily be his day and his day alone. But I think a lot of places have their own groundhog. Does Cuyahoga County have like an official groundhog or anything like that?
HGIC.
HGIC.
Head groundhog in charge.
All right, I'll allow it. Now, all I need to know is what you're talking about, and then I can come along on the journey with you. Head groundhog in charge. I was trying to explain Groundhog Day to my daughter this morning on the way to school, and I don't know that I was really nailing it. Because I had things that you know, but when you're asked to explain them, for some reason, you just can't whittle it down. It's like trying to teach someone an instrument if you are relatively adept at that instrument, right? Like I'm a drummer. Mary's boyfriend is a drummer. I don't know how good he is at teaching people to play the drums.
I don't know either.
Over the course of when my older children were younger, each one of them had a, hey, Dad, teach me how to play the drums moment. I'm sure my 7-year-old, soon-to-be 7-year-old, will have that moment at some point too. But if you have some acumen with an instrument, you don't realize how difficult it is to break it down to its fundamental parts because it's a lot of muscle memory and you know how to play and you know what you're doing and you're thinking 3 and 4 beats ahead. You know where you're going. To break it down can be very, very difficult.
That'd be like when my dad would try and teach us to do stuff when I was a kid. He'd be like, all right, first thing you do is this. And then he'd do 9 things and be like, and then you do this. I'm like, you're
just done?
Like you did everything and you explained one thing and then you're mad at me because I don't know how to do it. Like, you're not good at teaching things. He's like, you just don't pay attention. I'm like, okay, but it's because of you.
Yeah, my
genetically from you, you know.
My late dad, when he would try to help me with my physics homework, he was an engineer and he was teaching physics classes to engineers and things like that. And he wouldn't get upset, but I felt really, really stupid because he would just be going through some things and kind of trying to take his time and showing me what everything was and how it worked. And I go, wait a second. So it had to have been frustrating to try to explain something that complex to an idiot like me. Anyway, on the way to school, and it's not a long trip, it's maybe 7-8 minutes from Casa Cox to my daughter's school. I was trying to explain Groundhog Day to her. And I don't know what I don't know what perception she came away with. I don't know if she came away with me telling some weird story about grown men in tuxedos pulling a mole rat out of the ground or what it was. And she was like, "What's the point?" And I said, "Well, I didn't want to get too arcane with her. I said, well, it's a long-standing myth that, and then I have to remind myself that." Talking to a first grader. So I'm like, well, they're having fun and a lot of people come around. And then if, I couldn't even remember which it was. If they see the shadow, it's more winter. If they don't see the shadow.
I couldn't tell you.
I can't either. I don't even know what happened this morning. I think it saw its shadow, which means more winter. I don't know. So it came up in conversation. I was trying to explain it. I'm sure they've covered it. Her teacher will probably mention it today in school and probably covered it much more effectively than I could have.
Rodent-based meteorology has never been my thing, and even
Right.
less now than ever.
Right. But I'll tell you what, people who have problems with the science, people who like to do their own research, boy, they love groundhogs getting pulled out of a cage and being held up by men in tuxedos and handlebar mustaches.
I don't dislike that part of it. I just don't think it means, it's a fun celebration. You've been to it before.
I have been out to Punxsutawney, Philadelphia, or Pennsylvania, rather. Yeah, many, many years ago. It was quite a scene. I have to imagine it still is. Mostly college kids looking to get crunk at 4
Shammered,
a.m. Yeah. But I'm curious as to its origins. I may do a Wikipedia dive on Groundhog Day and just to, because at some point one person had to say, hey, what if we predict the weather by pulling a hairy rat out of the ground and then seeing what happens?
Large hairy rat.
A large hairy rat.
Mary, can't you do? You learned about mucus the other day.
I just
us-
Googled it right now.
Yeah, teach us
Derives from the
about it.
Pennsylvania Dutch superstition. So it was
So now
and
it's science.
Oh,
no,
it
it's not science.
It originated in Pennsylvania.
It's a Pennsylvania Dutch superstition that if a groundhog emerges from its burrow and sees its shadow due to clear weather, it will retreat to its den and winter will go on for 6 more weeks.
Due to
So
clear weather, yep, which we
equals-
had today.
6 more weeks of winter.
Equals more winter. That doesn't make sense to me. And
No,
then,
that's what I'm saying. How did they get from point A? I
I
understand.
think that was their way of saying, well, if we're getting the winter now, then it should be an early spring. That they were trying to be positive about it. Like,
Wait a
well,
minute.
it's a crappy day today.
Because it'll see its shadow if the sun is out.
Mm-hmm.
It will retreat to its den and winter will go on for 6 more weeks. If it does not see it because of the cloudiness, spring arrives early.
Yeah, because we're getting the winter
That
out of the
seems,
way.
yeah, but that
I don't know how they
seems-
arrived at that. That seems arbitrary and
counterintuitive.
binary at the same
Again,
time.
I think they were just trying to lie to themselves. Like, no, the spring will be here soon on a crappy day.
were groundhogs plentiful in Pennsylvania? Is that, why that animal? I have so many questions.
Well,
Are they
This-
that reactive to their shadow?
Right, are they nocturnal? The Pennsylvania Dutch, boy, leave it to them.
I feel like
But
we're
then,
further
wait a
away
second.
now.
We are further away
I
because
have more questions than answers.
History.com says that it has roots in ancient Christian tradition
Everything does.
of Candlemas,
Oh, yes.
when clergy
Great
would
band.
bless and distribute candles needed for winter. The candles represented how long and cold the winter would be. Germans explained this concept by selecting an animal, the hedgehog. I don't know how they made that jump from candles to hedgehogs. It just says the Germans did it.
Okay.
And then Germans came to America, and settlers in Pennsylvania continued the tradition.
Okay.
Well, now I want to listen to the band Candlemas. I'm very excited to dig back in.
I wanna
King
play
of the
Sonic
Grey
the Hedgehog.
Islands and Death Magic Doom and, oh, man, Lucifer Rising. Fantastic. All right, anyway, more questions than answers. That's